Welcome, everybody. We're excited to have you with us here today at our webinar. Very interesting. I was preparing for today's conversation, and I went through some verification, some facts to put this into context. One of the interesting things that I kind of went back to is Google was founded over 26 years ago. And even further back, Microsoft was founded in 1975, almost 50 years ago. So what's been really interesting is these applications that have been fixtures in our everyday lives and how they've been developed continue to rapidly change. And especially with the advent of generative AI, what this really means for companies that rely on technology continues to move at a pace that we've never seen. So I'm Young Pham. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer for CI&T. Today we'll be discussing Beyond the Obvious, the hidden truths of modern application development. And I wanted to introduce the stars of today's show. Bruno Ciccardi, President and founder of CI&T. He's celebrating his 30th year at CI&T and also has been a leading force pioneering digital technologies globally. In addition, our special guest star, Diego Lo Giudici, Vice President, Principal Analyst at Forrester, covering application development. He's celebrating his 20th year at Forrester and was also recently assigned the Bill Blue Award, recognizing Forrester's top analysts. It's a prestigious award and not a given out. It's to so many analysts there. So we're delighted to have him participate in our conversation here. So before we go through into that conversation, I wanted to do a quick introduction about CI&T. We're a global digital services company with a focus on modern application delivery. We cover the globe with delivery centers centered throughout APAC, EMEA, as well as LATAM. We're a publicly traded company, and we're very proud of our industry-leading employee retention rate as an IT service provider. In addition, I mentioned that it was Bruno's 30th year, but as a co-founder, it actually celebrates CI&T's 30th year as well. And being born in the advent of the internet age, we've continually evolved and reinvented ourselves, and particularly the way software is delivered. So being a champion of agile and lean delivery throughout the years and this constant reinvention, we're also excited in the last couple of years to be able to really roll out Flow, which is our supporting platform approach, using generative AI to help support the accelerated delivery of modern applications. And relative to the types of clients that we work with, we help modernize these global enterprises across a variety of verticals, including automotive and mobility, consumer packaged goods and retail, banking, financial services, healthcare, life sciences, manufacturing, electronics. So a lot of global brands across the board, which we are really excited to spend significant amounts of times, 20 plus years with some of those client relationships. So with that, I'll turn it over to Diego and really let him start off in terms of what he's seen and really go over his Forrester Mad Services report, which was just launched in January of this year.
Thank you very much, Young, and welcome everybody. Thank you, CI&T, for giving me the opportunity to share some of the results of my research in this modern application development services, which I've been working on now for over 5 years, let's say. So I guess it's an area and of growth, and it's how I'm seeing the services market transition, especially with an acceleration in the last few years. So what I'm going to do is, because it is kind of a new elite, I call it, market, I'm going to explain what it means and how we define modern application development, what's in it for you as clients, and then what are the key ingredients for successful services, what you should expect from vendors that are MAD or MAD. So there's 4 key trends transforming the software development services market. There are some services that are commoditized, right? Young talked about Agile and DevOps. Those are the type of commoditized services. Actually, we'll see a bit more in a minute. But there's also going on, of course, there are some new innovative services that are differentiating between the different players. And the other important trend is that it's not about building and transforming for clients, but it's building and transforming with clients. And we'll talk much more about that. And last but not least is this trend of asset-driven services, services that are based on assets, IP, software assets that vendors come along with. All right, so commoditized must-have services. I've been writing about Agile now for over 15 years. I still keep writing about it because it is a problem for clients. But just a recent report I just published in January, the State of Agile Development. I do this research every 2 years. And one of the direct questions I wanted to point out, because I hate when I see all these, things that you can read on the internet about, oh, Agile is dead, and so wanted to put some data behind the fact that let's see if it is really dead. And you can see that 95% of 231 professionals globally said that on the direct question, do you think Agile is still relevant in the market, was yes, 95%. And there's a lot of other data that if you are a Forrester client, you can go and download and see, what is it becoming, how is it changing, and what other, latest and greatest things about Agile services. The other type of services are DevOps, for example. And that's, again, we're talking about something that's been around 4 or 5, 10 years, 5, 7 years, maybe more mature in a mature way. And you can see again that if, and this is even a broader survey that we do, over 2,000 to 3,000 developers that we interview, that we survey around the world. And we ask about what are the plans about adopting DevOps, and you can see that 80% are adopting already, and that's again another high figure. Cloud, cloud again is another interesting trend that we've had for quite some time as well. Still maturing, still changing itself, but there's 76% are adopting cloud resident development environments, cloud resident CI tools. In other words, the software development market is moving more and more towards the cloud. Now, these are must-have. You can't be an MAD service provider if you're not strong on delivering these services. They are no longer differentiating to a certain extent because, we've been doing these for so much time. They're quite mature, they're strong, but they have to be there. Clients expect them, and an MAD service provider, have a very relevant role. Differentiating new services. Well, of course, the differentiating new services are obviously around AI. That's the big theme of the moment. It's about building what we call AI-infused applications. Yes, we are going towards this world of agents and agentic, but today, most applications that are being built and that are going to be built in the foreseeable near future are still going to have some software, and that's why we call them AI-infused software applications. And co-creating those with clients are differentiating services where you need AI data governance, you need AI and AI tools, new tools and new ways of building the software. But also AI can be used in building what we traditionally have been calling custom applications, custom software development. And there's a lot of going on right now with generative AI for software development that in Forrester we call Turing bots, that are accelerators that these vendors have to have as a differentiating factor to accelerate the way we build custom applications. The other important trend is about transforming with clients and not for clients. And this is where actually MAD gets defined. And the real differentiating factor between an ADM and a traditional application development market and a MAD, a modern application development market, is that the MAD has this strong basis of transformation and change management. So in order to build something with the clients, it means that the client needs to be ready to build with the vendor. And of course, there has to be, kind of, there's a lot of change that implies in terms of how the organization transforms from being a manual development organization to an automated development organization. And so the service is one key ingredient of MAD, besides the typical development services, is about exactly that transformation bit, right? That change management bit. It's like the second important leg of MAD. On one side, MAD help you build modern applications that can be changed, that can be easily deployed, that can be developed very quickly on a continuous delivery approach. But on the other hand, they have to provide these services. We expect that MAD service providers provide these strong change management capabilities so that you can, so that the journey becomes a journey that is efficiently progressed through with both vendor and client walking along together, hand by hand. And the other trend we talked about were the assets. And what are these assets? Well, of course, vendors have always been, service providers have always been providing maybe, DevOps glue to put together very quickly a continuous delivery platform for clients using and leveraging open source. Well, the same is happening with AI. And so building this is the little icon of a Turing bot, right? Which is basically AI and generative AI infused software tools, or what people or some organizations call co-pilots, other call them assistants, or they can be software components. They can even be agents, but basically these platforms infused with AI that augment development teams across the entire software development lifecycle and not just for code generation. And so with this technology, the vendor, the MAD provider, is empowering their own resources, but they're also empowering the resources of the client, so that the clients can benefit from building and leveraging this technology. So what is it, the definition? What's the definition for the MAD service provider? Well, it's exactly, there's two big sides to it. One is service providers that work collaboratively with their clients and create custom modern applications, but in parallel to that, assist the client in transforming and modernizing of their software development capabilities and organization. So it's about collaboration, it's about co-creation, it's about building modern, it's about transforming capabilities and organization. And that's very key and different from what we've seen from ADMs, the application development world. So the question is, why MAD? Well, because on one side, custom development is growing, and AI is going to be a big driver for that, right? We predict in Forrester that in the next few years we're going to see more custom development versus packaged application development, packaged customization. As software becomes an expression of a business, which is what digital is all about, MAD becomes more critical for customer success, because if the software is the expression of the business, it means that every organization that is, the core technology of an organization is software. And therefore, customers have to become much more better at building and much more faster at building, maintaining, managing software. Because the more you can do that as a process, the more you will be executing business. And so that's why MAD becomes critical as a service, as a support for that. Clients cannot do this alone. Our data shows that clients that are leveraging an MAD service provider to modernize and to go through this journey of digital and accelerate digital are better off than those that don't, that try to do this all internally. And by the way, we're coming from a world in the back days where a lot of development has been completely outsourced. And what we're seeing now is that clients want to get more in their hands. They want to be involved, and they want to know, they want to be able to co-create, so that they can also build and manage and master their own IP, right? And keep the differentiation. But they can't do that alone. They need to do that with folks that have, experience, that have a setup for managing talent, for continuously evolving. And so the co-creation and the collaboration with vendors is very important. You can see here the numbers show that MAD services that are characterized, that are defined as I defined them, with this additional effort around the change management, has been growing. 2024, modern application development services ranked higher than traditional software development services. But also, they grew from 2023 to 2024. So it's both a growth in terms of increase of how many development services, modern application development services are being adopted in the market, but also increasing the gap between the traditional development services and modern application development services. So it's really clients like, I guess, many of you that are on this call that need this help in building and delivering innovation quickly, but it's not, the traditional world of saying, okay, do it for me, innovate. I like you to build this cool stuff for me, bring it back and I will install them, I will run it. But it's actually, no, come here, do it with me, right? I want to learn how you do it so that I can sustain it. Maybe I can sustain some of it or all of it if I want over time. And it's really about that true partnership between the vendors, the service providers, and the clients. So what are some of the differentiated services? Well, I did a research which was published in January, as Young mentioned. So both the modern application development vendor landscape, and then I did a WAVE, which is a vendor comparison. And I learn a lot through those two evaluative research because I get to do a really deep evaluation of what services the various vendors are providing. So here's some highlights of what these differentiating services are. So first of all, it's companies that have very strong engineering capabilities to start with, right? That's kind of the starting basis of a modern application development player. It's about mastery of next generation practices. It's never stopping and keeping improving and innovating in terms of how we build software. The way we build software is changing. It's changing radically with AI. It's disrupting the way we're building it, right? We went from waterfall to agile to DevOps, and still there is some waterfall around, but that was kind of an evolution. But now we're talking about a disruption. And the differentiated services are not just in how cool and which technologies are mastered by the service provider, but also how, what techniques they have and what capabilities they have to do this work in a co-creation way, and with that dual objective of both delivering great solutions and software, but at the same time also delivering a transitional, transforming the capabilities of the organization that they're working with. And so these are the services that we expect. These are the services that I actually, how I qualified and evaluated what these organizations should be delivering as MAD, right? New staffing models, new approaches of staffing organizations, because now you're staffing teams that are made of both personnel from the client, but also together with the specialists coming from the service provider. Of course, Agile is part of it. DevOps as well. The cultural change management, right? The aspect of managing that transformation and the culture change. Going from project to product operating models. Platform engineering, architecture capabilities, cloud native, continuous testing is another key one. Security and compliance services. And then it goes through all those AI-related services, going from AI and infused applications development to the testing of AI-infused applications. How do we test not just the traditional apps, but also the AI apps and the agentic systems that we're going to be delivering? AI and data governance, using those Turing bots to automate coding, to automate testing, to automate some of the requirements phases. Helping provide a generative AI architecture so that the client can deploy and deliver generative AI solutions. Vertical industry knowledge is coming back as a very strong thing, because now that vertical knowledge can be used to refine, right, large language models and the technology we use with AI. And so having repositories of test cases or repositories of other industry knowledge formalized in over the experience of many years of working in certain industries becomes, again, very handy. And of course, there's this trend of sustainability and ethical AI. So these are the sample services that we expect providers to offer. Of course, having the entire strategy, vision, and innovation, and the type of partners that that these vendors are working with, pricing flexibility and transparency. That's always been the case, but we're probably moving more and more towards the so-called outcome services that we've been talking about for many years, but has been very slowly growing. We think that's gonna be a particular way in which these new services will be priced and paid for. Talent strategy, strong talent strategy, and global delivery footprint. Plus, of course, it couldn't really happen if they didn't also come with top future 1000 customers, Fortune 1000 customers that also rave about them. So when we evaluate these services, we look at all these criteria that you can see here on the slide. Plus, we also want to hear from their customers, and that's what we did when we did the wave. Now, we talked about the services and so we talked about assets and being an additional important trend in the market. But this is really just to say that basically most of the MAD leaders did show and had to prove that they had some generative AI technology that supports the whole software development lifecycle, right? So Turing bots that can help optimize maybe analysis requirements, that can help prioritize on a backlog the different user stories, or a Turing bot that can help during the design phase and having these experiment and these workshops that are done at the beginning between business and development, and now really can be done between business, AI, and development, and therefore the designs that we come up, the mock-ups get really animated and help experiment and find quickly how the new solution will look like. All the way to using coding Turing bots to generate code. It's also interesting, very use case of using coded Turing bots to even migrate or upgrade code from older versions to Java to new versions of Java. But think about code generation, the code understanding, reading, documenting, and translating from one language to the other, all those use cases. Testing is another interesting area for generative AI in the software development lifecycle, where you can not only self-heal tests, but basically generate from test cases, requirements, test cases, or optimize a whole bunch of test cases that might be to find out if there are repetitions or test cases that are missing, all the way to release, supporting the release process, and overall dev insights, which is really, we generate lots of data, but what we need to do is also leverage that data to come up with insights on how are we doing in terms of this project and the delivery of the project, and where is value, what can we tweak to optimize maybe value that is being generated, or find out where technical debt is being created. There's lots of help that we can get from generative AI, and these MAD providers are leveraging, right, have to have these assets that they can leverage and that they can also hand over to the client so that the clients can start using and leveraging them too. You can see that which of the following describes, the numbers show also which of these Turing bots are mostly being used. Well, the number one is supporting programming, as I said. The other one is testing. So those are the two most mature ecosystems, but we're also seeing an advancing now focus around the delivery of software, therefore configuration building of software pipelines and other areas of the software development lifecycle. The other important characteristic of a MAD service provider is really the focus on value, right? It's the focus on business value. And so we've been trying to measure business value for years, or it's always become, especially since Agile came around, it was like, because we're trying to get business and development together, working on shared objectives, we had to start measuring also, business value. And that kind of is a unifying metric between the business and the team, where the team is made of course, a combination of resources from the vendor and the resources from the client, with a focus on business value. So, are the outcomes of value to your customers in the projects? And there are many ways business value can be measured. It's harder to measure than compared to the traditional ones we've been having. But the fact that it's a shared goal between the MAD provider and the client really is a powerful concept. And of course, there are still leading metrics into business value, like quality metrics, because you can't generate business value if the quality is poor. So are we doing things right? Efficiency, are we cost effective? Of course, are we, are there things that we can do more faster so that we can achieve business value faster? What's the progress that we're making in that change, measuring that change, that transition, that transformation? Engagement, right? Is the culture changing? Are the people engaged and working on? This is kind of just an example of a framework based on a report that I wrote, the Modern Development Metrics That Really Matter, where it's just saying put business value at the center of the goal. We need to put business value at the center of your metric dashboard, but you will have all the other leading metrics into it. And so, I've been talking about change quite a bit, and I just wanted to kind of stress a little bit. What are these? What are the services around change? Well, some examples is basically helping the behavior. It's all about behavioral and cultural change, and it's not just for the people on the ground. It's especially also for executives and management, not just for the professionals, right? Everybody, it's a cultural change that is tied to perhaps the strategy that the company has to have, the values and the principles of Agile. And it's very important that also executives are also brought forward in the journey and involved in this, and actually not just committed, but leading the change, right? Companies will have set up hubs around the world to support their global footprint that are very MAD centric for the clients in those different regions and countries. Establishing things like labs and dojos. Think about establishing labs where you really have all the environments you need. You've got the experts in the room, and the teams go into that room and work with the experts, and they get full immersion on working for 4 weeks, 5 weeks in the new way of working that we're trying to transition the team through, right? And the teams go through that training maybe once, twice, 3 times a year, depends on what cadence is established. Modern talent development programs with clear, transparent development paths. So they're bringing over to the client as well some of the practices that the vendor is using internally. Coaching on the job is a primary consulting skill that is needed, right? It's getting the work done together. It's an osmosis that's happening between the vendor's resources and the client resources. I see these organizations also, getting some excellent research with programs at a very high and sophisticated level with universities around the world, and continuous investment in research and development. These are the things that really make a development leader, right, a MAD development player strong. There are many MAD players out there. There are many MAD providers, but not all of them address in an optimal way the critical needs of clients to be supported in upgrading and modernizing their development skills. And that's why I'm here, right? And so that's why I do all this study, this work, which is on the left side, you can see the results of the vendor of the modern application development vendor landscape document, where I analyze about 43 companies. And then we kind of, out of those, we get the inclusion criteria for the top 15 that go into the wave. And the wave, determines who are the leaders, the strong performers, and the contenders. Those are the two key key documents and research that we that I produce. And I think you'll be provided the wave through this webinar, through CINT. I think they're going to make it available to you if you want to go a bit deeper. If you're a Forrester client, you have access to both of these. And with that, I thank you very much for listening. I'll come back when we have some questions, maybe later, and off to you, Bruno.
Thank you, Diego. Thank you so much for your time. Welcome, everyone. I'll start to run my part of the presentation here, but stay to the end so we have a Q&A in the end. I'd like to start by just kind of putting where software development should be put in the big picture. I think it may come across like a very tacky thing, like a software development, but I think the role of software development is just getting more and more important for the future of organizations, because the experience that your clients, our clients, customers are having are mostly defined by software at this point, right? So for many of our clients that are, purely information-based, like banks, insurance companies, media, right? So almost 100% of the experience is digital. So software defines what that experience and the perception of that experience is, right? So, and even for companies that build physical products, a lot of that journey of engagement and purchasing and customer support is defined by those digital experiences. So this is why software development is so important. And we took ourselves as CI&T in a mission since we kind of start in this journey to kind of accelerate the time to market for our clients, helping our clients really tackle that speed that they respond to an ever-changing customer behavior, right? So what we've seen in the past is actually, our clients, when they realize there's a gap, there's an opportunity, they need to kind of course correct. Usually they take too long to respond, and they respond, the market already moved, right? And the ever-changing nature of consumer behavior is kind of putting a lot of pressure for us to respond faster to those external stimuli. So, and that's what we kind of consider ourselves in a mission to actually reduce that that response time to help our clients to to thrive in this future that will be very different from what we're seeing right now. And if you look at all the past transformations in terms of tech, like cloud and agile and continuous delivery, they're all means to an end. And we think the end is actually kind of embed that speed and that fast response in the way our clients respond to the market. Right? So we are not a research institute as Forrester, but we are very obsessed about our own metrics. And we've been kind of measuring what we think is the most important way to measure that response time, which is the lead time from idea to market, right? And we've been measuring this with our clients for the last 10 years. And we see already a big kind of improvement from the pre-digital era. This is like data from 8-9 years ago from where we are today with the digital era, right? So we kind of already had an improvement of almost 3 times in speed to market, right? So big improvement here on the deployment side with all the higher level of abstraction that the cloud brought, and all the CI/CDs and DevOps techniques. So we see where kind of we found that this is the biggest improvement. A lot of the improvement on actually the designing and building applications with the agile and MVP concepts and design thinking, right? Where we see a lot of improvements still in the decision making. Just an important note here: our clients are very complex organizations, like big Fortune 1000 global companies. It's hard to get alignment in what to do, right? So that's still a lot of work here to be done, right? But what we see in the future, an era that started 2 years ago and will just accelerate, is this will be compressed in a 10x to 20x way. So this is, I think, it's what's important here, right? This software development will be reduced to days. So the tools and the automation that's coming, and we see this very clearly, this will absolutely revolutionize software development, right? So, and we're trying to prepare for that reality, and we're already seeing a lot of evidence that we're going to this new paradigm where things will be done almost instantaneously, right? And of course, many things will have to change, not only technically, but also in terms of processes and culture to actually make this happen and to make the organizations that are prepared to make this happen successful in the future. So I'll give you an example. Let's say that we compress this to days and weeks. Doesn't make any sense to keep discussing or trying to align on what we're going to do here for months to decide what we're going to do in days, right? So this process of alignment and decision making has to be radically changed in order to take advantage of that speed that we can reach on the technical side. So we see big shifts in this journey, right? So last the big shifts that happened when we were coming from the kind of the waterfall pre-digital era to the digital era, we have to build up on what we actually have created here during the digital era to move on to a new tech stack and kind of a process and cultural design, right? So we're going to see, of course, way more agentic platforms and autonomous platforms in the tech stack, right? So a lot of data and specialized models working for specific use cases. On the process and organization design, I think we're going to see way smaller teams that are not connected to any tech stack, teams that are actually agnostic of the whatever technology they're building, the target technology will be. Mission-oriented organizations, like teams that are smaller, trying to solve business problems, right? And because we have the ability to execute way more now, right? We have the ability to do way more with way less, resources. We can run multiple strategies, right? Like we have what we call an AZ testing. Like we have kind of instead of debating what's the right idea to actually build, we can build many different ideas. We can do, many different strategies and roll out that for, let's say 1% of our user base and see what users actually, respond to, instead of us internally trying to guess what they will respond to. And of course, on the cultural side, will be a lot of different as well, right? So those environments where people will thrive, will have to give space for outsized individual contribution, right? So the pendulum will swing back from teams that were kind of where we're living here in the digital era, again, to individual contribution. And those environments that provide that autonomy, the high autonomy level for people to contribute and create that outsized impact will thrive. And remember, right, because this will be very shortened cycles of idea to go to market, will be very driven by business value. So business value will be that cycle from idea to create real value in the market will be shortened dramatically. So there will be the metrics that we use today, a lot of them are kind of middle of the pipe metrics, they wouldn't matter, right? Because that path will be very fast, right? And we see the role of leadership in this more like orchestrators in kind of creating the multiple layers of control and orchestration for this hectic work environment to actually work and create value for organizations. So of course, there are important that this new tech stack, we think, can only be built on top of what was created before, right? So of course, not all clients are kind of 100% here. They still kind of migrating, their tech stack from here to here. And I think this is an important step. Like you can't get here if you didn't build this footprint of kind of more modern infrastructure here. And companies that kind of ambition to get here, they have to accelerate that journey to get here first and then move here. Right? Here is different. People are more flexible, and if you're a laggard, if you're behind, and when you can probably jump straight from here to here, but there's that shortcut's not possible on the tech stack, right? And this is a little bit of our own journey in the last 2 years, right? So we built our own Gen AI platform to actually help our people and our clients to use Turing bots and agentic platforms to actually build software faster. We already seen more than 2x productivity gains compared to where we started 24 months ago. And we're very excited, right? So we have like 85% of the company using this today, and not only using Gen AI, not only using code assistant, but actually building specific agents that solve specific problems for clients, right? So, and we already have our teams working on this platform and building almost 3,000 agents or Turing bots, as Forrester call it, to actually help on specific business problems. So just a quick example here of a client where we're helping to kind of illustrate, to kind of put a little kind of picture in your head what that all the combination of those services look like, right? So Domino's Pizza is one of our proud lead clients. We started engaging with them because they wanted to revamp their e-commerce platform. But the e-commerce was, the program that we're going to help them revamp and build. But the main kind of one of the ambitions here was actually not only build this new platform, but in parallel build it, as Diego called it, co-create and help them flex their muscles and improve their own capabilities around engineering, modern application engineering, right? So in helping them kind of set themselves better for the future, right? So with the idea of like leapfrog competition here. So they have a history of investing in technology, and they want to really kind of a leapfrog and kind of jump ahead and really be ready to outperform competition when it comes to software development. And what we did, we started engaging in many different fronts, right? So on the redesign of the experience of the e-commerce, but also the in-store experience, the B2B experience, the international rollouts, right? So the migration to cloud. So all the kind of different fronts, and like really embedding ourselves there. And really the strategy was kind of to kind of really cross-pollinate to help them understand how to work on these modern practices. It's not like it's not a classroom training. It's more like this learning by doing. That's the approach that we actually believe. So people working together and seeing it, what the behaviors or the new behaviors are, and kind of being successful doing this. This is the way we think that really, we can change mindset and behaviors by actually doing the work and being successfully, and that actually sticks. And then you have those people that can be multipliers and can kind of be, helping other teams to do the same thing. And then gradually over quarter by quarter, you can scale your whole organization around those new practices, right? So that's the strategy we've been using successfully, not only with Domino's, but with other clients. So this is it's going live right now in the US. So the completely redesigned experience with all the kind of the most modern kind of technology footprint here, cloud native, decoupled architectures, completely, CI/CD ready. Here are some results, right? So kind of not only we were able to scale this kind of train, kind of a completely help their teams to organize around, customer journeys and change completely the team topology of the whole initiative and the way they think about team topology, but also kind of a showing with real results, the ability to deliver faster, right? So like we already seen 5 times faster deployments, from the weeks to days, and faster business results as kind of a reduction in 50% of the process improvement. So a lot of those kind of results kind of gets people excited and kind of moving on into that cycle of continuous improvement. And this is all the kind of our vision for how to use Gen AI towards that ambitious goal of getting 10x productivity and cost gains, right? So it's in our vision, those are a sample of the agents / Turing bots that we're using. And again, you're going to see here, it's not only about code assistance, right? So code assistant, it's just kind of very down the road in terms of the process. You have to think to reach that 10x. You really have to rethink the whole software development process and the use of Gen AI throughout, right? From the idea refinement to all the way to operations, right? So this is the only way you can actually ambition to reach that 10x, 20x improvement. And that's what we're doing, already seeing a lot of results, super excited. And that's what we're trying to create for clients, and happy with where we are so far in the journey. So with that, I'll finish here. And I guess we can open up for quick questions, right, Yang? If we have them already.
We do, Bruno. So just following you and what you've talked about, because Gen AI is a big take. One of the questions is really asking about enterprise grade software. It's the ultimate frontier for the future of automation. And in a way, it's a more complex ecosystem than just building and experiments with AI. How do you think MAD will evolve to really address the edge cases? And I think that's the big part, is the edge cases of complexity. of complex software. So I'll start with you, Bruno, and then I'll probably move to Diego on that. And I know that's a hard one to start with, but I think it's an important one.
I agree. I agree with the statement. You know, like that's the edge case. Like really enterprise grade, complex software. We have to integrate not only with one, sometimes with 15 different applications, right? So the ability to analyze the impact and how actually you introduce change and introduce new development into that ecosystem is really tough, right? But again, like we already, as the window of context of those LLMs increase and the ability to reasoning also increases, we think that's going to happen. It's going to happen, and we're going to get to that vision, you know, of 10x reduction in lead times and cost in software development. And that's going to happen in the next, you know, for the pace we see today, my guess is going to happen within 3 years, maybe 4, maybe less. By the pace that things are going, and what are we seeing that we can do, right? So we already kind of in that environment that we're describing here, you know, enterprise level with all sorts of, you know, levels of security and difficulty to integrate in complex environments. Even in that space, we're seeing massive changes. But again, to do that again, it's way beyond code assistance. You have to look at you have to put the software development process upside down, dismantle it, and mount it again. Only what we makes sense according to that new paradigm. Right? So, and if we do this, I think we're gonna get there, and we're gonna get that fast.
Yeah, Diego, I'd love a follow up on the same topic.
You know, Bruno kind of went over some of this already, but just to differentiate, perhaps, I think one important thing is going to be architecture. I mean, in order to deal with complexity and to deal with the complexity of, think about agents coming. I mean, today everybody talks about agents. I don't think there is anything yet agentic out there. But when agentic systems really will be here, it's going to be another level of complexity. And so how do we deal with agents now from a security perspective, for agents that need to talk to agents outside the organization, not just inside the organization? I think we're going to need, and this is going to happen, is building architectures that are going to be able to sustain that type of new technology, right? The generative AI, an architecture that supports generative AI delivery of not just experiments, as Marcelo here was saying, but true large-scale applications, raises the level and the issue of how we build architectures to another level. So we need to figure out the right architectures to be able to deal with this complexity and provide a platform where these more large-scale applications, AI-driven, are going to happen. So yes, on one side, as Bruno said, the AI is going to get better, and it is going to get better, but we need to get better on the architectures, the so-called generative AI enabling architectures that are going to be needed.
Yeah. A follow-up to that, Diego. You talk about the architecture, but in your segment, you also talked about this cultural shift that companies have to go through. How are the customers that you're sort of engaging with, are they accomplishing it on their own, or is this something that they're bringing outside help or a vendor in the process really to achieve this change?
Yeah, as I said in the presentation, is yes, there are customers that are trying that journey alone, or at least starting alone. But the data shows that those that are more successful are the ones that actually do leverage an external partner. But it has to be a real partner engagement. It has to be MAD. That's why I defined MAD. It's all about MAD, because if you can't outsource your crown jewels. You have to be that, and that's what CIOs of these companies want. Not all companies are mature enough to kind of go down this path, or at least don't have a full maturity of using these services everywhere, and probably they don't need to inside their organization. There are the areas where they really need to be differentiating is where they're going to be focusing on having these type of services. And I think that basically the culture change, customers can't stay behind all the innovation that is coming on by themselves, right? I mean, So there's a reason why service providers exist. They have a different setup. They have programs for talent development at scale, right? We're talking about thousands of people. We're not talking about small companies of 200, 300, 1,000. So I think they've got, the right understanding, the skills, the tools, and the capabilities to just accelerate. But the difference is not just like throwing people at you and making sure that everyone has a digital twin consultant, but it's like an intelligent osmosis and integration between the two. And so change, especially the change management aspect, I think is it seems to be actually what, I've been doing this research on agile for about 15 years almost, and there's always the questions around what are the biggest challenges just to become more agile. And it's going to be the same exactly for enabling and adopting AI. And among the top three, change management is always at the top. It's always among the top three challenges. And I think that's, that does needs focus. It needs experience, the experience that vendors are exposed with many environments, many cultures, many clients. I think that's an advantage to be very blunt about it.
Yeah. And Bruno, to you, just following it up on the change management topic, one of our questions is really about how do you deal with that, particularly with senior leadership, and that it's not magic, right? So Diego talks about that a little bit, but from your own experience, how do you work not just with the developers using Gen AI, but organizationally, top down? How do they accept it?
And I agree with the diagnostic from Diego and our listeners here. Like the cultural change is the biggest and the biggest change and the hardest one. And our approach to it is very pragmatic, right? So we try not to be what I call the fundamentalists of the practices and the technologies. Like try to preach C-levels, how beautiful it is to run agile design thinking or the cloud or Gen AI. I think it's the wrong approach, and I see a lot of peers in the industry trying to do this, and they complain, oh, this leadership, they don't get it, right? So they don't get this benefits, and that's not the path. The path is to show results in their terms, in the C-level terms, which means impact on bottom line or top line. Right? If you cannot create that with all your whistles and bells in terms of practices and procedures and new things, if you cannot create that type of move, you're not going to create sticking and lasting change. That's our point of view. So we focus on that. Yes, we introduce all those new things, but those new things, they have to create impact on top line and bottom line. And then you're talking their language. And then you have the attention of the leadership, because that's creating real value for the organization. And then they pay attention. Then they're ready to scale it. So our approach always been to start gradually, landing somewhere where actually, that we can create that sort of impact, creating that impact, and then, scaling the transformation based on that momentum, on that excitement of that's creating real value for the company, and not trying to scale based on that's the new thing that's because it's nice to do because everybody's doing. That's usually a recipe for a lot of frustration and waste.
I'd like to add one thing. So I think the takeaway is it has to be both top down and bottom up. If one of those two is missing, it becomes harder. If the top is missing, it becomes really hard, and it will just be a very slow transformation. Probably will happen, but will happen over a very long period of time. To speed it up, executives need to be and get involved. But on the other hand, if the executives look down and say, oh my God, I have nothing here that can support my idea of doing this, right? The illuminated CEO or CIO, that's a problem too, because then they have to start hiring and they have to, go through this program of making sure that these people are getting trained and getting the right results. So it has to be both top down and bottom up. The nice thing is that the bottom up can be helped a lot, and the top down, both of them, with the services that you can get through MAD.
Yeah. Diego, to follow up to that, are there specific metrics either from top down or bottom up? Obviously, there are different milestones that you want to look at to achieve that success. Any pointers for our audience here?
Well, I think Bruno's said it very clearly for the top what it is. It's the bottom line improvement, right? That's why I mentioned that
impact,
metric
yeah.
of it's business value, right? You
Yeah.
have to deliver business value, and that's what the executives want to see. But I'm adding also, because the focus on change is important, is metrics that measure change management, right? Are the teams happy? Are they, can you measure the health of the teams? And you want to look at the aspect of the progress that's being made as well, because at the end of the day, you also have to kind of monitor to manage better what you want to change. You want to measure, what is the effect of the change that you're trying to make, which results at the end, but it all has to result in the end in increasing business value.
Great. And then we're running up on time, Bruno. Any last thoughts to follow up with what we've covered here today?
Well, I think just the role of service providers in this whole thing, right? Like, I think what service providers can do is actually kind of create that kind of role model to be followed, to accelerate that journey of learning, right? So because everyone can learn those things, right? It just takes a lot of time, and if you take a lot of time to actually create that business value, that you may lose fuel on the midway, and your initiative may be kind of plugged off. So what I think that our journey is like, we've been there, we've done this, we can create that role model and kind of help your organization be a top performer in a global scale, right? Like really. You can learn all this, but it's like practicing by yourself. Maybe you're gonna get good at basketball, but if you're training, with an NBA player, well, you're probably gonna get really good in basketball, right? So that's the thing. Like we were learning and kind of measuring yourself against the highest standards in the industry, so that capability really become a powerful one.
Great. And then with that, there's one last question. I did want to answer it directly as a shameless plug. I haven't heard much about CI&T. Are you active in financial services? Absolutely. CI&T works with retail banks like Synovus and MMT and lenders such as CMG, as well as a variety of asset managers such as BlackRock, Vanguard, and Franklin Templeton. So with the last shameless plug, I want to thank our superstars here, Diego and Bruno, for attending, as well as everyone else that joined the session today. We'll make this session available on demand as well. And Diego referenced it. We can make available the Forrester Med Services report that he recently published in January. Thanks all.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you. Bye-bye.